bliksem.
My name is Mark Oppenheimer. I'm an advocate at the Johannesburg Bar, but I'm talking to you today not as a lawyer, but as a concerned citizen. For the last year and a half, there has been a public debate about expropriation without compensation. We now have an amendment bill before us, and it gives the government enormous powers to confiscate land, including homes, while paying nil in compensation. Many people have been led to believe that the bill will only affect farmland or rural land. In fact, what it does is affect land and all improvements, which includes your home. Between 1995 and 2014, the land claims process unfolded, and 1.8 million individuals received compensation, either in the form of land or in the form of money. Government has created the false impression that there is a hunger for land. This is not borne out by the facts. 95% of the cases that were brought before this process have been resolved. 90% of those people chose money instead of land. They did this because there is no hunger for land in South Africa. When South Africans are polled, most of them say that the burning issue in the country is unemployment. Only 2% say land reform. We know that expropriation without compensation has been tried in other countries. In Zimbabwe, it wasn't only the farmers who had their land taken from them that were affected negatively. They now have 90% unemployment. It is the world's worst case of hyperinflation. In Venezuela, 2.5 million people have been driven into exile into neighboring countries so that they can flee the despotic regime that has confiscated property rights and affected everyone's livelihood. We are now at a point where government has produced a bill. It has not taken effect yet and there is still time to fight it, but the effects will be absolutely catastrophic. While the time hasn't run out yet, Parliament will be accepting public submissions up until the end of January. Visit dearsoutafrica.co.za to make sure your comments on the bill is officially recognised. By law, all public input must be considered in the final decision. Your voice matters.
Hi, my name is Jerm. This is Jerm Warfare, the Battle of Ideas, and welcome to this midweek episode. I am joined by Hein Marx of the United Liberty Front, and we're going to be chatting about secession and the possibilities therein. Hein, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Jim. Hopefully South Africa gives us better power this time than our last.
Yeah, so this is the second time you and I are chatting, because the first time around we had some connectivity problems, so let's hope that this is going to go a bit smoother. Okay, so let's start at the start. I love saying that line. You represent the United Liberty Front. I see you've got your logo in the background and on your coffee mug.
Yes, my coffee mug, but it's the United Liberty Alliance.
I beg your pardon. I meant to say United Liberty Alliance. ULA. I'm so sorry. There we go. Right. Right. So what is it all about?
United Liberty Alliance, Afrikaans Verenigde Vryheidsalliansie. We're basically just an organization that started many years ago, looking for a solution for the massive problem we have in South Africa. I really got tired of people talking and complaining about all the problems. We can all complain and talk about problems and find new ones, and there's less water here and more expensive water there, and the electricity doesn't work here, and the BEE, whatever. Problems, there'll always be. In South Africa, if we leave it as it is at the moment, in fact, it will become even worse. I want solutions in life. And that's why I said, what is the solution? How do we fix this? And then, obviously, you've got to look at all different avenues. And eventually, I got to the point where I realized the only genuine solution is what the Americans term as a so-called two-state solution, which means in terms of international law, we must secede away from the current South Africa.
Okay. Hang on. Before you go any further, sorry to interrupt, but what does secede mean?
Secede basically means exactly that you've got one country, and seceding means you're making a two-state solution. You've got two states then, two countries then.
Right.
So you basically officially go away. You take one country and you make two from it. The legal process is called secede.
Is that another way of saying self-determination?
Self-determination. People play around with the word self-determination to say, well, if you live in a small town where there's no water and only sunshine and no future really, you're away from the government, then you've got self-determination. You don't. You've got perhaps a false sense of self-determination, but you still fall under the central government. In our case, the ANC.
Yeah.
And then of course the question arises: how long will the ANC govern in South Africa? Now, Malema and Zuma and all of them have said, it will be forever. Forever, meaning whatever, how long it might be. The reality is they might not be so wrong. Why not? Because from our perspective, irrelevant of what the party is called, from a Christian Western culture perspective, we will always be governed by the ANC, meaning by a black Nguni African culture tribe mentality.
What does that mean?
Well, it means what came out already so far. It came out that corruption is a white thing. You whites brought it from Europe.
Yeah.
I don't know where that leaves the coloureds, but because they've got basically our culture as well. That's the one thing. The other thing is, under apartheid, we had 11 laws basically describing and governing apartheid.
Yeah.
The ANC government have already got 114 laws. 114. 103 laws more than the National Party government had. The question is, will that get better? I doubt it. In fact, I want to go as far as to say, no, it will never get better. Why won't it get better? Because it's been proven over and over and over and over in Africa. Once they have power, they cling to it. There's nothing like pride to say, well, I've done something wrong, I will resign. I don't want that over my head. I would rather resign. It doesn't work like that. They cling to that power as long as they can. I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure people know that. From what's his name, Mugabe, right through, all of them, it's the same story. It's not our culture. And that brings you back to seceding. Because seceding, Article 1 of the International Covenant on Human and Political Rights makes it very clear that all people have the right to self-determination, to decide your own fate in terms of your political views, your financial, your everything, which we don't have at this stage. In fact, if I say that we don't, the reality is the blacks of this country doesn't realize it. They don't even have freedom. They've got to do what the ANC government decides they've got to do.
Yeah.
When will that change? It won't ever change.
So what you're saying then is that the alternative is to self-determine, create a new sort of republic.
A new country, yes. Absolutely a new country where you've got your laws based on your Western capitalistic Christian values. That, for instance, if we do what we want to do now, and we're not the only country in the world looking at seceding. I mean, there are many countries looking at the moment at seceding.
Catalonia.
Well, Catalonia is one of it. Scotland.
Scotland, yeah. Actually, Brexit.
Well, Brexit it's different. It's different. They're basically getting out of the European Union. They're not.
But it is a form of secession.
But it's in a way the same thing. In a way, it's the same thing. What we're saying is that before 1994 and after 1961, the idea was to give the black so-called homelands their independence. The world never wanted it. And what happened? The National Party government sat with those homelands, had to look after them, had to finance it, had to control the majority according to, and this is the question, according to whose laws, according to whose values and standards. So that caused problems. The world never understood the real problem, so they forced, in a big way, that 1994 happened. What we're saying now is that if we can use international law, well, not if we can, that's what we're trying to do, to work on the basis of international law where they say they've got 4 points, or you've got to have one similarity of those 4, then you've got already the basis to secede.
Yeah.
Ethnicity, language, culture, and religion. Now, if we look at the minorities in South Africa, because that's what we stand for, the minorities. Who's the minorities? The minorities are basically all the Europeans and colored plus Indians included. That's the minorities. And we basically share, if you look at the permutations of that, definitely not the ethnicity one, but either language, and in fact language is the biggest common factor, because in the area where the minorities are the majority, approximately 80% speak Afrikaans in any case. But then you've got your Western culture. The only people that doesn't fall into that from those minority groups are the Indians. They don't have a Western culture. And then you look at religion. South Africa still is one of the biggest Christian countries in the world. So based on that, a so-called group of people, we definitely fall in that category of a group of people that may secede. Just as a matter of interest, this is, how do they say in your terms, fresh off the press. It was, less than 12 hours ago, I received an email from the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, last night again, because I'm in contact with him because of all of this. Unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because all of us, the people that realize what's going on here, want this to happen yesterday. Unfortunately, the international process, legal process, is much slower.
Yeah.
It's much more sure. So yes, the United Nations, 100%, they win contact. They know what's going on. In fact, the email he sent me last night again is, he asked me to get in contact with the team of the High Commissioner of Human Rights, because the previous time he specifically told me that he will get the High Commissioner of Human Rights involved in our case. Now, the interesting thing about that is that he could have said he can get the Commissioner for Refugees, for instance, involved, or the Commissioner for Coffee and Tea, whatever you want to call it. The reality is, in the United Nations, the High Commissioner for Human Rights is the second highest post, if you want to put it like that, in the United Nations. Because after the Secretary General, human rights is the most important thing according to the United Nations. So
and secession is a human right, is what you're suggesting.
Say again?
Secession is a human right.
Well, of course it's a human right, because it's more than a human right. It's a written law in the United Nations. It's written, in fact, it's Article 1 of international law. So it's It becomes a human right because it's part of their charter.
Okay, let's get to the part that a lot of people in the comments and in general conversation are asking. Secession is great as a talking point, but geographically, what does it mean?
Well, geographically, it means what we're saying. Our legal argument is we've identified the area, because that's one of the prerequisites to secede, is that you've got to identify your area, and you can't just identify it thumb-sucking. You've got to have a legal argument. Why do you have that area? What we're saying is the area where the minorities in South Africa is the majority. And that is based on the 2011 IEC statistics. So what we're doing is we're not using our own figures. We're using the South African IEC figures. And this is not something that we use and carry on, don't do anything. The reality is we're doing that because it's South African statistics.
Okay, right.
So
let's
they
hear.
can't fight against it. Sorry.
So let's hear. What would that geography look like then?
Well, it's basically the old
Cape
province, which means in current terms it's the Western Cape, the Northern Cape,
and a bit of the Free State.
Bit of the Eastern Cape.
Eastern Cape.
Okay, that's the old Cape province. Then it is what we've determined. It's also the western side of the Free State, and then a small piece into the Transvaal, including Pretoria, because Pretoria's got the highest concentration of Afrikaans speakers in South Africa.
But that seems like a fairly large chunk of the country. I mean, that's what, half?
And?
Well, I mean, okay, so the very next question would be, well, is this going to be an easy process? I mean, I can't imagine the ANC and just about everybody in government agreeing to that.
Jerm, it's a couple of things that you actually touched on now. Firstly, that's why I specifically said so, and it's irrelevant the size of it, because in the same sense, how big is Liechtenstein? Or, for that matter, Switzerland? The size is irrelevant. It's determined by where the people live. Or you can argue, look at Alaska. Alaska has got literally, to exaggerate, a couple of thousand people. Look how big the country is. Then somebody else must get. That's irrelevant. The size is irrelevant. You get to the next point. Irrelevant in any case of how big or small the area is. It'll always be difficult. Why? It'll be difficult because your so-called mother country, in terms of international law, never likes it. They never like it. Even now with Scotland, that wants to have another referendum for independence, Boris Johnson already said no, they can't have another referendum. Why not? Why? What does it do to him? It touches them in terms of the economy, because suddenly England becomes smaller. So that's irrelevant of how difficult it is. At the end of the day, in terms of international law, in terms of international acceptability, everything depends on the will of the people.
Okay, Hein, I want to interrupt you there and just ask you something on a practical level. My understanding is that to secede under the current constitution requires essentially two things, and I know you're going to put me in my place, and I'm very happy to hear that, but I'm going to tell you what my understanding is thus far. There has to be a vote in Parliament or a civil war. Those two things. And I doubt that either two of those are going to happen. So please tell me what that alternative or that third option is.
Okay. Firstly, there's nothing in the Constitution that says secession depends on a civil war or a vote in Parliament. That doesn't exist. So that's irrelevant. Which in any case brings me to the point where some people say and believe that secession can only happen through a so-called political party or a political process, which is also total nonsense. Because at the end of the day, a political process is nothing else than the will of the people. I never saw any political process with Catalonia, for instance. I never saw a political process with South Sudan, or with Kosovo, or with America in 1776.
Or even the Soviet Union, for that matter. Although that was quite political, wasn't it?
No. Very good point. But it's not the Soviet Union. It's the countries, Lithuania and all the other smaller ones, Kazakhstan and those people that seceded after 1991. That was accepted from a political point of view from Russia, quite simply because they didn't have a choice. That's something totally different.
Right.
And this is something that I've also said many times. There are some people that say, well, you've got to do it this and this and this and that. The reality is, there's a very strict law in terms of secession, but in capital letters. There's not one country in the world that have seceded and most probably ever will secede exactly on the same basis as another one.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm thinking about Yugoslavia. That was quite aggressive, I think, the way they went about doing things.
It's a total full-out war.
But what was interesting there, and it's a successful secession, regardless of how it occurred. It's nevertheless successful. It occurred because of those common denominators that you're talking about: language, nationality, beliefs, etc.
Religion played a very, very big part in the whole Kosovo Yugoslavia thing. In fact, it was based on Christians and Muslims.
Right.
That's what happened there.
Can I throw a curveball at you?
Anytime.
What are your views on South Tyrol?
You know, I know. Well, I lived in Germany, but I know a lot of. And by the way, South Tyrol's got nothing to do with Germany. It was actually.
They might argue you on that, surely.
Yeah, I don't know. It was Austria. It was part of Austria.
Right.
And the interesting thing is, up until today, the Austrians and even the people living in South Tyrol still see themselves as Austrian. In fact, most of them still speak German.
And not as Italian.
Not as Italians. Mm-hmm. The problem with South Tyrol, and I don't know if you've ever been there, it's around
I would like to visit.
Beautiful. It's around the Garda Zee.
Yeah, sorry, just before you continue, I don't mean to interrupt, but I read that South Tyrol is the wealthiest region in Europe per capita.
I'm not so sure about that. If you read it, it might be. They are very successful, but I don't know if it's the most successful. That I can't. But yes, I'll take your word on that. The problem with South Tyrol is that to go back now, because remember that was given to Italy after the First World War.
Yeah. And
South Tyrol, this is the whole problem with all these cutting up of countries. And the question is, when does it stop? Because, and this is the problem, because there was a lot of countries cut up wrongly. So you can't stop now. Eventually it will go back. I can tell you now it will go back. Why does most people still talk German in there? In fact, that's why I said it. It's still called the Garda See. Now, a See is a lake in German.
Yeah.
It's still Garda See. It's not whatever Italian name. They still speak German. Eventually, I'm sure it will go back. But there's another side to all of this when you talk about, for instance, South Tyrol and the Garda people. I talk about the Garda people. Why? Because it's such a beautiful lake, the Garda See. Remember one thing. Have you ever heard, officially, I've heard from many, many, many Austrians, how South Tyrol must go back to Austria and everything. But have you heard anything in the news or on the media about South Tyrol wanting to go back to Austria? No, you don't really. Why not? Because they treat it with absolute respect, and with absolute equal standards as the rest of Italy. That is the problem in all of these countries, including South Africa, why people want to secede. It's as simple as that. That, by the way, is one of the reasons why Scotland wants to secede. Because the English does not treat the Scottish right. Simple as that. In South Africa, if we were treated with dignity, with respect, and let's not go into all the problems, like I said earlier, I think we all know more problems than we would like to. Would it then be necessary to secede? And the genuine answer is no.
Do you think, Hein, that a lot of the secession motivation, not just here but globally, is also a result of the fact that people are not opposed to multiculturalism, but a lot of people don't want it forced on them. And so when it gets forced on them, they retaliate and go, you know what? I don't want this. I want to choose with whom I associate. Do you think there's some sort of relationship between that and secession?
Absolutely. I mean, this is exactly what I meant when I said earlier, for instance, South Tyrol. The people are treated with absolute respect. They can choose how they live and what they do and who they appoint and who they fire and whatever.
Yeah.
They're not being forced to do things in an Italian way. They do it their way.
Yeah.
Of course, that's part of the reason. Look what's happening in Sweden. Look what's happening in Norway. But the next question to that would be, why does that happen? And I'll tell you why. Because that's human nature in a big way. Because the moment people get power, they misuse it. And governments in the world are known for absolutely misusing their power.
100% agreed. I just want to add to what you're saying there. I'm by nature, I suppose, a localist. I don't know if that's even a thing, but I'm a fan of smaller governance just about everywhere. So I obviously support the idea of secession and everything that you're saying. But I'm just having the conversation with you to throw around some of the ideas and the opposing ideas. For example, it will never work, or how can it work? You make it, if you don't mind me saying, you make it sound like it's sort of easy to achieve. What is the reality?
Okay. The question is a very straightforward question. The answer is much simpler than you think. To secede is extremely easy, but in the same sense, totally impossible if the people does not stand up and say, that is what we want. Point. I'm sure you must have seen, from Catalonia to Georgia now, sorry, not Georgia, what was it, Iran, where that guy that was killed.
Soleimani.
How many people, and I'm talking about whites and coloreds, have you seen in South Africa standing up and fighting and saying, we don't want that, or alternatively, we want that? We don't do it. We just sit and say, oh, okay. Or like somebody said this morning, I asked him, so what's your solution to this problem? He said, well, I don't agree with secession because I believe God will sort it out for us. I said, okay, so what you're saying is that I don't believe God will sort it out. He said, no, but you want to secede. I said, so what do you want to do? He said, nothing, I will pray. I said, well, then please pray. And I will do the work, because God is not going to do the work for you. God will help you, but he's not going to do the work for you. The problem in South Africa is, I'm still on your answer of how difficult it would be. Forget about difficult. It will be impossible, secession. It will be totally impossible. if people don't say that one basic thing that is part of international law, what is the will of the people? What is the will of the people as we sit here tonight, Jim? What is the will? United Nations. What is the will of our people when I talk about secession with Antonio Guterres? Very simple. You don't want secession because you've got 221,000 odd votes and you've got nearly, as minorities, nearly 9 million people.
So how many people do you need?
In the area, 2 million, well, 1.9 odd, call it 2 million votes.
And sorry, I'm interrupting you. What is a vote? Is it just an acknowledgement via the website, for example?
It's not an acknowledgement, it's a question. There's a question that says, do you want self-determination? Yes or no? Now, obviously, the people that doesn't want to vote like this guy that only wants to pray, you won't even go on the website. Because you must remember one thing, they're also extremely lazy people. They can talk, but they cannot take 30 seconds to do something. Those are the kind of people that sit on their lazy boys and ask their wives to bring their beers, to take their shoes off, to bring their food, to put the TV on and off. People are lazy. If you ask them to just give that mandate, that vote, because that's based on international law, you need a mandate to talk to the international community.
So some questions that I've been receiving. There are quite a lot of comments, and I'll ask one or two questions from them in a moment. But a lot of comments that I've often spoken about self-determination, around the braai and whatnot over the years, and I've had very mixed responses. Some people say it can't work. Before we go any further, what would we call this new country? So just for the sake of the conversation,
let's go back to it can't work.
Well. The reason why I'm saying that is that they say the comments that I hear is, how would it survive economically?
Wow. Now the answer to that would be, don't open. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the people that told you that. Don't open your mouth if you don't have a clue what you're talking about. The Western Cape, from a financial point of view, is extremely healthy financially. The Northern Cape, because there's no development there, is not that healthy. And then the Eastern Cape up to Port Elizabeth is also, Mossel Bay where I live, George, these areas, very economically healthy. Do you know how much of the budget of the Western Cape, the money that they do they get back? I think it's somewhere in the region of 25%, 25%.
Yeah, I was about to say a quarter.
Which means, where's the rest of the money? We're talking about big money here.
I think it's
the person that says that economically it won't survive.
I think it's something like 160 billion, and then we get back 40 or 50 billion.
No, it's 25.
Something like that. I don't know.
25%. So that argument is ridiculous. I want to go back to that. Then you say, will it work? Again, the answer is, it can never work if you don't want it.
Right.
But wanting it in your head, or in your head and just around braaivleisvieren, that doesn't mean anything. You've got to say, what does the Catalonians do? They go and march in their tens and hundreds of thousands to show the government what they want. We're not asking that. We're saying, just put your name on paper. Just not even on paper. On your computer, say, yes, I want it. That's all. That's all you want. And then it's as simple as that. Why? My answer to you again, coming back to your original question. It is extremely easy to get it.
Right.
If people don't vote, it's impossible. Not difficult, it's impossible. It's virtually impossible.
Yeah. Let's go back to that light-hearted question just for a second, if you don't mind. What would the name of this independent state be? And I'll wait to see some of the comments as well, to see what people suggest. But I'm sure you've had a few discussions about this.
Jim, no. The answer is very simple. Who am I, or the ULA, is basically nothing else than a legal process, because that's what we do, to say what the name of the country must be. What we concentrate on, because at the end of the day, it's the people of the new country to decide that, not us. If I decide, or we decide what the name of the country must be, and somebody that's in the area that wants to secede, say, I don't like the name, I don't like it, I'm not going to do it, I can't blame him, because that must be decided by the people. So no, I can tell you there's no name for the new country. Quite simply because there's another reason for that. We are standing for a confederation. A confederation of independent states. Why? Because firstly, a confederation consists out of different states that are completely autonomous, but under a central, very small government that consists basically only out of Department of Foreign Affairs, a central military force that's made up of all the Confederate states, and obviously you must have one currency. So it's a very, very small central government. Yeah, you would most probably have a Confederate police force as well, smaller things like that. But at the end of the day, that must be decided by the people, not by us. So no, I don't have an answer for you on the name of the country.
Yes, another comment.
I've got many answers on a lot of other smaller details, like, and I want to answer you, I want to tell you that. For instance, somebody phoned me this morning from Natal, and he wanted to know, but if secession works and we are independent, he hasn't got money, he works for somebody, if he leaves Natal and he comes here, what will happen to him? I said, what do you mean what will happen to you? You'll be safe. He said, no, but what about work and where to live and stuff like that? I said, let me make this clear. Firstly, there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of illegal people in this area that we want to secede. Those people must go back to either the areas they came from, or the countries that they came from, or alternatively, they call it old South Africa, who let them in the first place, because that's international law again. And then, firstly, there's a lot of jobs available. Might not be rocket scientist jobs, but there's jobs available. But also, there will be housing available. How many billions have our government spent since 1994 on RDP housing? And look what it looks like. Give that to people that want to do something, and they will make a paradise even out of that. Yeah. At least they won't, because that was the answer. They won't have to come and sit under the stars and sleep in the rain. And he immediately said, I totally understand what you're saying. Thank you. You answered my question. Why? Because the answer also is, of course, we can't give those people money and just look after them with a mentality like we have in South Africa at the moment of give. But at least you will look after those people in terms of housing, and they can find jobs for sure. I personally believe, and again, that's my personal view, I believe that the new country's economy must be based on agriculture for many reasons. But also because if you base your economy on agriculture, at least your products will be cheaper, your food will be cheaper, and people will never have to go hungry. Simple.
A comment that I've seen, Hein, on Twitter, when I've had this conversation. Sorry, I've got a mosquito that just bit me on my leg and it's a bit itchy. a comment that I've seen is what happens to the people in the region that's been identified who don't agree with secession or who don't want to secede? Is it as simple as they must either just accept it or they must leave?
The answer is simpler than you think. If, and that's a rhetorical question to you, but if you think back 1994, if you did not accept the ANC as your new government, what would have happened to you? Nothing, or you had to leave the country. It's as simple as that. So the people that are legal, I'm talking about the legal, remember there are millions of illegals as well. I'm talking about the legal people in the area that does not want to secede. If they are the minority and we secede, they are more than welcome. We will even help them to get over the border back to the ANC. Simple.
Right.
We're not forcing anybody. If we, as a majority in the minorities, if we secede, then we secede not for personal gain or whatever. We do it for freedom,
right,
for prosperity, and for a future for our other generations to come. We're not doing it for individuals that does not have the intelligence or the insight to understand that we will not survive in this country the way it's going on at the moment. With people that saying, we haven't started killing the whites yet.
Yeah, that was Malema.
Of course it was Malema. Who is Malema? Malema is nothing else than a person talking for the ANC under another name.
Right.
Simple.
Hein, can I read you one or two questions from the comment section? There are a lot.
Sure.
All right. So someone's asking what mechanism is in place to ensure no duplicate votes occur on your website and to ensure that the person voting is in fact a South African citizen. Is authenticity actually verified via phone ID number, etc.?
Okay. Firstly, it's we're in the 21st century. It's a computer program. You can vote a million times if you want to. It will only register once. Simple.
Okay.
So that's logic. To see if it's a South African, well, he's got to give us where he lives, his telephone number, and his email address.
And then you can verify that.
And we can verify it. We're doing it. That, by the way, is taking long. And by the way, we haven't had people that voted that's not South Africans because that doesn't make sense.
All right, I've got another question for you. What kind of... Okay, you did touch on this, but I'm going to read it to you anyway. What kind of currency would we adopt? And how would we adjust the economy of the new state? That's getting quite technical. I suspect...
No problem.
Okay.
No problem. Well, firstly, you want to get away from the rand as quickly as possible. For sure. And again, all of this depends on how does this secession happen. Does it happen through the legal or de jure process? Because if it happens purely 100% on the de jure process, then you've got time to get your new currency in place, to get your new constitution in place, to get everything in place, because then it's a process that are basically managed as was the ANC taking over in 1994. That process started in 1991 already in South Africa.
Yeah.
Actually 1990. The process started already. So if that's the way, then you can have your new currency. If it does not happen that way, but it happens because of a UDI or unilateral declaration of independence, because there's war in the country. Why do I say there's war in the country? Because we hear virtually once a month from the BLF or the EFF, from how many people on Facebook that they want a war. They will chase us into the sea. They will kill our dogs and our cats and our canaries and our goldfish and our women and everything. Are we ignorant or stupid when are we going to start believing all these threats? So the reality is,
it's
it
true.
might also happen.
In actual fact, someone said to me a while back, when the government says what it wants to do to you, you probably would be wise to believe it.
Exactly.
Okay, I've got a comment for you. Another comment from Martin. He's asking, what happens after you get the 2 million votes? Do we start redrawing the maps?
The maps have already been redrawn. The question is, and this is basically answered in what I said earlier, so he's referring to the pure de jure process. What happens is that once we've got the vote, now remember that can, if people start waking up, that can happen within a month or two. So let's theoretically say it happens very quickly and we get the 2 million votes.
Right.
What happens is that, remember, this legal process has been going on for many years. So what we do is we immediately demand, we don't ask, we demand in terms of international law for a referendum from the government. We also get the international community. What does international community mean here? It's either the UN or one of the other countries that we talk to demand that we have a referendum. Will the government give us that referendum? I can tell you now, they won't give it to us. But that's the process we've got to go. Then we demand and we demand. If they refuse, and this is why when international law on secession was written, it wasn't written for South Africa, it was written for the international community, for specifically when things doesn't go right, to secede. So the fact that we've gone through all this process and we then demand a referendum and they don't give it, doesn't mean now it stops, we don't get secession. Then we don't secede, we do what they call a UDI, a unilateral declaration of independence. Once you've done that, and one other country then have accepted it, and I mean, we're talking about within 12 hours after that, sort of, you have then seceded. So the answer to the person that asked that is, then we do a unilateral declaration of independence.
Well, okay. I guess that's what happens practically.
That's the law.
Yeah. Do you think the ANC would work within that?
No.
So what happens then?
Right. Because that's the next question. Because that's the next practical step that happens. So once you've declared your independence, another country have accepted it, then again, international law was written accepting that your so-called mother country will military-wise attack you. But who are you then? You're a new country with no military, with no fighting equipment. In our case, luckily, we've got a couple of 308s and 306s and .22s. But luckily, we've got two more things on top of that. And that's people with backbones. People that hunt, that can shoot a springbok at 500 and 700 meters.
Oh my goodness. All right, well then I'm going to have to say cheers because I can't get past 200 meters.
No, but you'll be part of the other guys that only shoot to 20 meters. Don't worry. So what happens then? They will attack you. International law says that if they attack you, in fact it says, and I quote, then you may defend yourself in any way possible. That sounds just like words. That's all it is. It's not. Because if you look at the Geneva Convention of the so-called rules of engagement, of rules of war, this law actually goes totally against that. Because it says you may defend yourself in any way possible. But it goes further than that. And it says, because remember now, you've now been accepted by the international community as a new country. International law goes further and it says, and then the United Nations, or one of its member countries, must defend you against your mother country.
Yeah, but what if they don't?
Well, if they don't, then you've got to fight your fight on your own. And then the question is, and a lot of people are very scared of this, is what happens if they don't? Now, I'm going to come back to this now because I want to use two scenarios here, okay? The first scenario is they don't come and protect you, which is basically impossible because the United Nations Charter says they must defend you.
Right.
Remember, you're civilians.
Yeah.
But let's say they don't, okay? Then you've got to defend yourself, in our case, luckily, against our extremely intelligent, strong, well-trained, fit, intelligent, fantastic South African National Defence Force. You think that'll be a big problem? I'll rest my case, Your Honour. Now, let's take the other possibility. Okay?
Excuse me.
I'm also laughing. I'm just containing myself. Right, that's the one. They don't defend you. You've got to defend yourself. But there's the other side is, let's say they defend you. But before we get to the defend, December 2018, the American Senate accepted Law S1158, Prevention of Genocide Act. In January last year, Trump made it known to the world that it was accepted. What does it mean, and what does it mean to us? It means, now, with my negotiations with the United Nations, one of the things that came out more than once so far, and they don't admit this in public, which I totally understand, is that Rwanda and what happened there is up until today a massive problem for them because they knew about it and they did not do anything when it happened.
You're talking about the United Nations?
Yeah.
Yeah, they actually ran.
Well, they because they weren't prepared, because they didn't believe that it will happen. Now, the interesting thing is, if you look at from Dr. Gregory Stanton, from Genocide Watch, then from newspaper articles, Facebook, Twitter, name it, we are absolutely heading exactly the same way. There's no question about it. That is one of the reasons why America have adopted Article S1158, which means, what does it practically mean for us? America has got, since the beginning of last year, one division totally trained and ready for exactly that, for deployment to any area in the world. Now, I mean, I know the Americans with their C5s and C17s, they deploy very quickly. That's not even a problem to prevent exactly what happened there. And then the question is, do you believe that it will happen, that they will defend us? Well, irrelevant if you believe if they will defend us or not, I believe they will. But if they don't, then we go back to, well, we've got to fight this incredibly good, trained, fit. I mean, have you seen the fantastic fit soldiers of the South African National Defence Force? With their pink slippers and curlers and whatever. That's the other side of it. So you can choose whichever one you want to. Both are acceptable to me. And believe me, to many other people as well.
Fine. How many? Oh my!
Jim, this is a very, very serious.
That was a bit freaky there. My door just opened for no reason. How many?
By the way, this is a very serious conversation. You can't laugh about our South African National Defence Force.
I laugh about a lot of things, and I probably shouldn't. I think I'm going to hell for that. Let me ask you another question quickly. How many votes have you got so far?
221,000 odd. You want to close that? Let me tell you exactly how many we've got.
Are you there?
Yeah. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you.
Yeah, I'm just I want to tell you exactly how many we've got, because remember this is a live website, so obviously it changes all the time. Okay, 221,401.
Okay, so you still got quite a way to go.
Oh, yes, a lot, many. That's why I say this is the sad thing, Jerm, that you asked me how difficult would it be to get independence, and my answer to you is extremely easy or impossible, depending on the will of the people, depending if the people want to go and do it. Simple as that.
Well, that's why I'm chatting to you to spread the message of secession, which, by the way, I support. I am a fan of secession anywhere in the world. If the people want it, then I support it, and I don't see why it should be stopped. I think the only reason why people want to stop it is because they've either got very far left-leaning views or because of politics. Those are the only two reasons. I don't understand why people would want it to be blocked.
There's another reason. And don't underestimate the other reason. Luckily, they're the total minority. And that's the people, our people, that are getting filthy rich through their own corruption with the corrupt dealings with the government.
Yeah, you're right. Connections and links and kickbacks.
Well, corruption. It, of course, it's that, but it's at the end of the day, it's corruption. Those are people that will flee this ship as quickly as they can once there's problems here, because that's what those kind of people do. They run away. They don't face the problems. They don't try and solve problems. Their only goal in life is money.
Another comment that I've seen, and let's just put this one to bed. You're in it to make money. This is all a scam.
Us?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I've been involved in this for how many years? If I can get the money back that I've put in here, I can buy a couple of very nice things. No. Let me make this categorically very, very clear. The ULA is costing me money. Well, firstly, I can't make money out of it because there's no money coming in. And even now that we've started, in fact, we've this week started sending letters out to get money in to utilize, very clear, 100% for advertisements. Not 1 cent may go to anybody working in the ULA, because we are all volunteers. So if we get money in, firstly, again, I mean, I don't even have control over the bank account that we've opened not long ago. One of our legal team, an attorney, he's got the power of attorney on the or signing powers on the bank account. I don't want any. You know why? Because exactly because of that reason. This is the thing that I don't understand about us South Africans. They are so scared that somebody might make money out of it, and I don't want to make money. With all respect, Jerm, I don't want to make money. I don't have to make money. I've got my own business. I've been in business 40 years this year. I don't have to make money, believe me, out of the ULA. In fact, every month, as we go on, every month, it's costing me money. If somebody wants to say, oh yes, because you know you're going to get it back. No, I don't want it back. Let me make this also very clear. I don't want anything back out of it. I don't want positions out of it. I want freedom for myself, my family, my people, and for the next generations to come. That is one of the most feeble arguments that I've ever heard. But in the same sense, I must also admit, there are groups that are in this so-called self-determination for absolutely no other reason than to make money. And the reality is, if you go and look at the money that they make, I just laugh, because this one gets 20,000 a month and that one 10,000. That just shows you how small they think. If that's the kind of money, then I understand that that's what they're doing, because they've got nothing and this is a way to make money. And there are, and I don't want to, definitely I won't mention the organizations that do it, but there's a couple of them. I can, again, 100% give people the absolute 100% guarantee. Not myself or any of the ULA people get 1 cent from the ULA.
So what you're saying, Hein, is that it's an idea that a group of people are trying to advance. It's not a business.
No, it's definitely not a business. It's definitely not a business. The business that we're doing here is the business of getting self-determination.
There are more comments. There are, sure, a lot of comments. Okay, so there are a lot of people in the comments who are giving you high fives. Some people in the comments are saying that they've already been to the website now to give their mandate. Just quickly, because this will be a podcast as well, so for people who are listening, what is the URL for people to visit?
It's www.ulacongress with 2 S's.com.
Oh, that's pretty easy. I'll include that information after the video is done. Let's just have a quick look at 1 or 2 more comments. Do you mind hanging around for a minute or two? Because
I've got no problem.
Okay, cool. Because we've gone over time, but as long as you don't mind, then it's fine.
No, I really don't mind.
Okay, great.
As long as we go past 12.
No, I think we should be done before 12.
Okay, well, that is fine.
Okay, some people are just thinking. They're saying it's a voluntary labor of love. Yes, we've got that. What is the worst? Okay, that's an interesting one. What is the worst that could happen? Assuming that you get 2 million votes.
No. Worst in 2 cases.
Okay.
The worst that can happen, and that's really the worst that can happen, is that with all this work that we've put in, with putting the solution on the table, with all the work that we've done internationally, because that, by the way, one of the prerequisites of secession, that you must have these international communications with the international community. In our case, even with Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General. The worst that can happen is that our people does not give 2 million votes to say we want self-determination. Because again, I want to stress this again. As we stand here today, if I fly to New York tomorrow and I talk to Guterres or to Trump or whoever you want to, or to Stalin, what's his name? No, Putin. The reality is the same thing. The reality is your people does not want self-determination because you've got 221,000 votes out of approximately 9 million. And what is my answer to that? The only answer I've got is, well, we're trying. The reality is, as we stand today, from the international community, from the United Nations point of view, we do not want self-determination. It's as simple as that.
And would you be happy with that result?
No, of course not. I mean, well, except if you can give me another solution to our problem. That's why I say that's the worst. That's the worst that can happen. I'm sure in your head, you can help me right. I'm sure in your head you must have thought, when you asked me the question, that I would say the worst that can happen is that once we get secession, is that the South African government, they're strong, intelligent, fit, well-trained SANDF will attack us and we will have a civil war.
Yeah, I did think that, yeah.
That's not the worst. Believe me, that's not the worst. Because the reality is, with a war, we will have an ending. And the ending will 100% be that we will be on our own. We will lose lives and everything. I'll most probably die because I'll be right in front fighting. No, sorry, you'll be, because you can only shoot at 20 meters.
No. Wait, that's not fair. That's not fair. I think 200.
Okay, 200. No, I'm just joking. what I'm trying to say, Jerm, is that is not the worst. The worst is, and I don't know if you've seen our memes. One of the things that we have is this frog slowly starting to boil in the pot.
I've actually used that in a cartoon with Cyril Ramaphosa since he spoke about it in the 90s.
And the reality is, that is the worst, is that we will all eventually physically die and disappear from the face of the earth because our people are absolutely too, and I'm sorry to say it, too pathetic to just go and say, I don't want that. I want freedom.
So what you're promoting, essentially, Hein, is an idea, and it's not a bad idea. It's one that's about, it's one that's about, let's say, prosperity, liberty, and I guess, what would a third option there be? I'm trying to think of one, but it's essentially the things that humans want. It's the opposition to being oppressed, essentially, because you don't want to have necessarily this massive centralized government that we currently have.
You're totally right. That's all we want. You spoke about it earlier, and I wanted to still carry on, start talking about that. But I don't know how much you know about the libertarians. Not liberals, libertarians.
I know what they are, yeah.
Okay. So the libertarians believe in as little, if not any, laws. Now, I mean, unfortunately, we can't live in a society without any laws. But what we believe in is to say as little as possible control laws, as little as possible control over people's lives.
In other words, what you're saying is that people must be in control of their own lives.
They must be the architect of their own futures. In South Africa, everybody, except the ones that work with the government in corrupt ways to enrich themselves, are basically struggling to survive. I mean, let me not even go into that. Try and do business in South Africa if you don't work for the government and in corrupt deals.
You also need BEE credentials, which is a government.
Well, that's part
of government corrupt bureaucracy.
It's reversed apartheid. It's as simple as that. We just want liberty, freedom, and to look after our own lives.
All right, I've got another one or two comments to read for you. Excuse me. He's saying, his name's Floppy. He's saying all of these organizations fighting or pretending to fight for minorities in South Africa, you seem to be the first that seem legit. I guess that's a compliment.
Well, Floppy, thank you very much for that. And I don't even want to go into that. I won't say we're the only ones legit, but I can tell you one thing. There are less than 5 organizations that are legitimate in this country. The rest are doing it for their own pockets. But thank you, Floppy.
Okay. I've obviously missed a lot of comments. I don't want to keep you...
No, you're welcome. Believe me, I've got time.
Okay. Are there any other areas of secession that we've not covered? I've asked you a lot of the very obvious basic ones. Let's look at the history here. How long have you been fighting for this?
Well, I started 7 years ago, and again, you must understand the whole law of secession. The international law was written originally 1945, and then 1948 it was finalized. And perhaps I didn't understand it, not perhaps, I definitely didn't understand it correctly in the beginning. And I started, and I remember, if I think back, I still said, well, there's no ways that I can work for 5 years on this, and if we don't have something that we can prove that we've got either our freedom or done something, then I'm wasting my time. In the meantime, I've got to admit that I was totally wrong. Quite simply because the law was actually written in that way that it must take years to complete, because one of the things that's incredibly important in terms of secession is the so-called depletion of internal remedies. Now, that side of the law was written specifically like that it must take years. Now, luckily, we are past that. In 2013, 13th of December 2017, with our advocate, I wrote a letter to the president, delivered by the sheriff of the court in Pretoria, to the president to say, we now accept that all internal remedies have been exhausted, and we are now officially organizing for secession. So it's not even a case of that the government can say, oh, who's this? What are they doing? Well, I really won't be surprised that they don't know. But then again, that's their problem, because the letters, not only that one, was delivered by the sheriff of the court. So in terms of the law, unfortunately, it does take a long time. We got to the point, I think it was beginning of 2019, a year ago, that the next step was to get the mandate for the secession. Because again, mandate, the other word for that is the will of the people. And the original idea was, well, that's why it's called the United Liberty Alliance, or Verenigde Vryheidsalliansie. The original idea was, well, get a couple of organizations together, get 2 million people in all those organizations that they belong to, because once they subscribe to that idea, then you've got your 2 million votes. And then one of our legal people came out and said, whoa, no, it doesn't work like that. It's exactly the same as a political party. Any of the political parties today doesn't have the mandate to negotiate for secession. They've got a mandate to represent those people in the South African government in day-to-day things. Not something as important as this. And then they said, well, you've got to have each, it's like a vote, you've got to have each and every person's yes or no.
Right.
And then suddenly a 36-ton brick truck hit us slowly but surely, when we realized that our people in South Africa, and I want to say this with really sadness in my heart, doesn't seem as if they want freedom. They want to complain. They want to find something that's not right. They want to moan. They want to have their beer and Coke at Braai's and complain. They want to anything that, but they do not want to spend 30 seconds on the website to say, yes, I want it. Nowhere do we ask money. Nowhere do we ask their wives or their dogs or a debit order. We just say, do you want self-determination, yes or no?
Well, the reason why a lot of people don't want it is because it's this mental disease which is known as leftism.
Jerm, no, don't make a mistake. Remember, I hear what you say, but you must understand one thing. If you look at communities in the Western world, now this might obviously change from community to community or country to country, but generally speaking, you've got, looking at it from your point of view, on your left, you've got approximately 10% of your total community that's left. Approximately 10% of your community is normally right. And if you then look at them, approximately 10% of the 10%, which means 1% is extreme left and 1% is extreme right. That's the norm. Then you've got 80% of your population normally. That's in between. They just live. They just want to have a happy life. But they want such a happy life that they are too blind to see where South Africa is heading. They don't understand it. If for instance, something else that I want to talk about, for instance, is gun control. Now, it's a very current subject.
Yeah, and the ANC wants to remove guns from citizens.
Exactly. We all always see the whole thing in America where they want to have gun control, gun control, gun control. Suddenly, and a lot of people haven't even realized it yet, but suddenly, now our esteemed, intelligent, fit, fantastic Minister of Police, beautiful person, he also wants to take all our guns away. And all I can tell him is, he's got a problem. Because I've seen the reaction in America last week, and I think it'll be exactly the same here.
Yeah.
And the banner has said very clearly, come and take it.
Hein, I've got a bunch of people asking me to ask you this next question, but before
Why don't they ask me themselves?
But before I read that question to you, a number of people in the comments are asking for the website. Whoever knows the website, please post it in the comments. It'll just make everything easier for those who keep asking to go to the website. Okay, the question, Hein, I don't know how you're going to answer this. It doesn't seem to me like it's a very easily answerable question, but a bunch of people have asked it. Let me ask you anyway. Border control in the new independent state.
Oh, that's a simple answer. I've already answered it. Because in your confederate system, remember, you will have basically all the different confederate states, which will also include Griqualand and Namaland or Namakwaland. You have a central military. And I'm sure we're going to try and make our guys also as fit and effective as the South African National Defence Force. You've got a central military. What is the sole main purpose of any military in the world? Is to defend your borders. Mm-hmm. How do we achieve that? In one of many ways. I can't say how it will be, but there might be conscription again. It might be
a militia.
Sorry?
Would it be a militia?
No. It'll be a military. It'll be absolutely a military. No. Very strong military. Now, that's why I said it might be conscription, but conscription is not always a good thing, because then you have people there that don't want to be there. Mm. So another way of thinking is to say, well, rather open it and say people that wants to be there because they can make a career out of it, they are there, and you've got people that actually wants to be there, including girls or women. And then you build a very strong military. But something else that we've already looked at is, for instance, the Swiss system, which, by the way, is the closest to a pure confederate system that you can get. They just call it the canton system, where basically each and every person is in their army, and they've got all the equipment, rifles, and a specific amount of ammunition with them in their houses.
And they have, if I'm correct, they do what, like 2 weeks of training per year or something?
They do some training. I'm not sure exactly how much, but they do training, obviously, to keep them current, including their pilots and their, I nearly said submarines.
Well, we, as I understand it, South Africa has a very good submarine.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the sea. It's a fish tank now.
Okay, Hein, we've gone nearly 90 minutes. I absolutely appreciate your time. Thank you for redoing this episode. I'm hoping it went smoothly. By the looks of it, we had no problems, and I think it was a much better conversation than last time around. We covered a lot more ground. If there's anything you want to add, you can do that right now. Otherwise, I'll call it a night. Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I'd like to ask the people. In fact, I'd like to beg the people to go to ulacongress2ss.com. There's mandates on the top link there, mandates and total mandates. Go to mandates, vote If you want to say no, then don't even go there. But vote. Give your mandate that we can get the solution going. Where we stand today, we don't have we've got the solution, but we can't implement it. I would also like to ask the people, get in contact with us on the website, or directly with me or anybody else at the ULA. We want to start a Facebook advertising campaign, because remember I told you about the 80% in between. We believe that virtually very close to 99% of that 80% doesn't even know about the ULA or of the fact that we've got the right to secede. People don't know it. So we want to start an advertising campaign on Facebook. Unfortunately, that costs money. So people can do it in one of two ways. They can either give the money to us in our account, which obviously they can then deduct from tax because we're an NPC, or alternatively, they can pay directly. We don't want a cent out of it. They can pay directly Facebook for us to help with that. So what we're saying is we need money to get the word out there. It's as simple as that.
Just before I say cheers, someone called Jack has said, please tell Uncle Hein, Wim Hein, that he should really try and get votes from the Suidlanders and the, how do I say that? Legion. Is that right? I've never seen that word before. I don't even know what that means. Legion, Legion. I don't know, unless that's a spelling error. Anyway, he's saying that you must get support from.
Let me answer him on that. I said earlier about the 10% to the left and 10% to the right. The people that he's talking about are all in this 10%. And I can tell you now, we've got virtually 99% of those votes. We need this 80%. I've been involved in this for a long time. There are virtually no grouping within this right-hand group that doesn't know about the solution. There are people that, like I said, for instance, this morning, this guy that said he doesn't support secession because he will only pray. Well, good luck to him. We want to reach this 80%. And for that, unfortunately, somebody's got to pay Facebook. Again, they don't have to pay us. They can pay Facebook directly. That's the one thing. And the other thing, Jerm, thank you very, very much for inviting me again, giving me the opportunity to get the word out again, because that is the important thing to us, is to get the word out.
Yeah, and I don't see you doing anything wrong. I mean, there's nothing about what you're saying sounds bad. I mean, you're talking about the will of the people. That seems like a pretty good thing, and history seems to show that it can be successful, and I don't see why it can't be successful in South Africa if that's what the people want. Hein, please don't go anywhere. I'm going to quickly say cheers to everybody. Guys, thanks very much for watching. This was an extremely popular episode. Looking at the comments, please continue to spread the word, and I'll put the website under the video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.